Sai Ram. Shirdi Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 1. The story of grinding wheat and its philosophical significance. According to the ancient and revered custom, Hemant Pant begins the work Shirdi Sai Satcharitra with various salutations. First, he makes obeisance to God Ganesh to remove all obstacles and make the work a success, and says that Shirdi Sai is God Ganesh himself. Then to the goddess Saraswati to inspire him to write the work, and says that Shirdi Sai is one with the goddess and that he is singing his own life. Then to the gods Brahma, Vishnu and Shankar, the creating, preserving and destroying deities respectively, and says that Sainath is one with them, and he, the great teacher, will carry us across the river of worldly existence. Then to his tutelary deity Narayana Adhinath, who manifested himself in Konkan, the land reclaimed by Parashurama from the sea, and to the Adipurush of the family. Then to the Bharadwaj Muni, into whose Gotra he was born, and also to various rishis Yajnavalakya, Bhrigu, Parashar, Narad, Vedavyas, Sanak, Sanandan, Sanat Kumar, Shukha, Shaunak, Vishwamitra, Vasishtha, Valmiki, Vamadev, Jaimani, Vaishampayan, Navayogindra, etc., and also modern saints such as Nivrutti, Dhyanadev, Sopan, Muktabai, Janardhan, Eknath, Namdev, Tukaram, Kanha, and Narahari, etc. Then to his grandfather Sadashiv, father Raghunath, his mother who left him in his infancy, and to his paternal aunt who brought him up, and to his loving elder brother. Then to the readers, and praise to them to give their whole and undivided attention to his work. And lastly to his Guru Shri Sainath, an incarnation of Sri Dattatreya, who is his sole refuge and who will make him realize that Brahma is the reality and the world an illusion, and incidentally to all beings in whom the Lord God dwells. After describing in brief the various modes of devotion according to Parashar, Vyasa and Chandilya, etc., the author goes on to relate the following story. It was sometime after 1910 that I went one fine morning to the masjid in Shirdi to have darshan of Sai Baba. I was wonderstruck to see the following phenomena. After washing his mouth and face, Sai Baba began to make preparations for grinding wheat. He spread a sack on the floor and thereon set a hand mill. He took some quantity of wheat in a winnowing fan, and then drawing up the sleeves of his kafni and taking hold of the peg of the hand mill, started grinding the wheat by putting a few handfuls of wheat in the upper opening of the mill and rotated it. I thought what business Baba had with the grinding of wheat when he possessed nothing and stored nothing, and as he lived on alms. Some people who had come there thought likewise, but none had the courage to ask Baba what he was doing. Immediately, this news of Baba grinding wheat spread into the village, and at once men and women ran to the masjid and flocked there to see Baba's act. 4 bold women from the crowd forced their way up, and pushing Baba aside, forcibly took the peg or handle into their hands, and singing Baba's Leelas started grinding. At first Baba was enraged, but on seeing the woman's love and devotion, he was much pleased and began to smile. While they were grinding, they began to think that Baba had no house, no property, no children, none to look after, and he lived on alms, and therefore he did not require any wheat flour for making bread or roti. What will he do with this large quantity of flour? Perhaps, as Baba is very kind, he will distribute the flour amongst us. Thinking in this way, and while singing, they finished the grinding, and after putting the hand mill aside, they divided the flour into 4 portions and began to remove them by taking 1 portion per head. Baba, who was calm and quiet up till now, got wild and started abusing them, saying, "Ladies, have you gone mad? Whose father's property are you looting away? Have I borrowed any wheat from you so that you can safely take the flour? Now do this, take the flour and throw it on the village borders. On hearing this, the women felt abashed and, whispering amongst themselves, went to the outskirts of the village and spread the floor as directed by Baba. I asked the Shirdi people what was this that Baba did. They replied that as cholera epidemic was spreading in the village, this was Baba's remedy for the same. It was not wheat that was ground, but cholera itself was ground to pieces and pushed out of the village. From this time onward, the cholera epidemic subsided and people of the village were happy. I was much pleased to know all this, but at the same time my curiosity was also aroused. I began to ask myself what earthly connection was there between wheat flour and cholera, what was the causal relation between the two, and how to reconcile them. The incident seems to be inexplicable. I should write something on this and sing to my heart's content Baba's sweet Leelas. Thinking in this way about this Leela, my heart was filled with joy and I was thus inspired to write Baba's life, the Sai Satcharitra. And as we know, with Baba's grace and blessings, this work was successfully accomplished. Philosophical significance of grinding. Apart from the meaning which the people of Shirdi put on this incident of grinding wheat, there is, we think, a philosophical significance too. Baba lived in Shirdi for about 60 years, and during this long period, he did the business of grinding almost every day, not however wheat alone, but the sins, the mental and physical afflictions and the miseries of his innumerable devotees. The two stones of his mill consisted of karma and bhakti, the former being the lower one and the later the upper one. The handle with which Baba worked the mill consisted of dhyan. It was a firm conviction of Baba that knowledge or self-realization is not possible unless there is the prior act of grinding of all our impulses, desires, sins, and of the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, and the ahankar, which is so subtle and therefore so difficult to get rid of. This reminds us of a similar story of Kabir, who, seeing a woman grinding corn, said to his guru Nipatiranjan, "I am weeping because I feel the agony of being crushed under the wheel of worldly existence, like the corn in the handmill." Nipatiranjan replied, "Do not be afraid. Hold fast to the handle of knowledge of this mill as I do, and do not wander far away from the same, but turn inward to the center, and you are sure to be saved." Bow to Shirdi Sai. Peace be to all. Om Sai Ram. Shirdi Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 2. Object of writing the work: incapacity and boldness in the undertaking, hot discussion, conferring significant and prophetic title of Hemanpan, necessity of a guru. In the last chapter, the author mentioned in the original Marathi book that he would state the reason that led him to undertake the work and about the persons qualified to read the same and such other points. Now in this chapter, he narrates the same. The object of writing this work. In the first chapter, I described Sai Baba's miracle of checking and destroying the cholera epidemic by grinding wheat and throwing the flour on the outskirts of the village. I heard other miracles of Sai Baba to my great delight, and this delight burst forth into this poetic work. I also thought that the description of these miracles of Sai Baba would be interesting and instructive to his devotees, and would remove their sins, and so I began to write the sacred life and teachings of Sai Baba. The life of the saint is neither logical nor dialectical. It shows us the true and great path, incapacity and boldness in undertaking the work. Hemanpan thought that he was not a fit person to undertake the work. He said, "I do not know the life of my intimate friend, nor do I know my own mind. Then how can I write the life of a saint or describe the nature of incarnations which even the Vedas were unable to do? One must be a saint himself before he could know other saints. Otherwise, how can I describe their glory? To write the life of a saint is most difficult. One may as well be able to measure the depth of the 7 seas or enclose the sky with cloth trappings. I knew this was the most venturous undertaking which might expose me to ridicule. I therefore invoked Sai Baba's grace. The premier poet, saint of Maharashtra, Sri Jnaneshwar Maharaj, has stated that the Lord loves those who write the lives of saints, and the saints also have their own peculiar method of assigning the service which the devotees long for. The saint inspires the work, the devotee becomes only an indirect cause or an instrument in achieving the end. For instance, in 1700 Shaka year, the poet Mahipati aspired to write the works of saints. The saints inspired him and got the work done. So also in 1800 Shaka year, Dasaganu's service was accepted. The former wrote 4 books, Bhakta Vijay, Shanta Vijay, Bhakta Leelamrut and Sant Leelamrut, while the later wrote 2, Bhakta Leelamrut and Sant Kathamrut, in which the lives of modern saints were described. In chapters 31, 32, 33 of Bhakta Leelamrut and in chapter 57 of Sant Kathamrut, the life and teachings of Sai Baba are very well depicted. These have been separately published in Sai Leela magazine, numbers 11 and 12, volume 17. The readers are advised to read these chapters. So also Sai Baba's wonderful Leelas are described by Mrs. Savitribai Raghunath Tendulkar of Bandra in a small book named Shri Sainath Bhajanmala. Dasagunu Maharaj also has composed various sweet poems on Sai Baba. A devotee named Amidas Bhavani Mehta has also published some stories of Sai Baba in Gujarati. Some numbers of Sainath Prabha, a magazine published by Dakshina Bhiksha Sanstha of Shirdi, are also published. Then the question of objection comes in that while so many works regarding Sai Baba are extant, why should this Satcharitra be written and where is its necessity? The answer is plain and simple. The life of Sai Baba is as wide and deep and is an infinite ocean, and all can dive deep into the same and take out the precious gems of knowledge and bhakti and distribute them amongst the aspiring people. The stories, parables and teachings of Sai Baba are very wonderful. They will give peace and happiness to the people who are afflicted with sorrows and heavily loaded with miseries of this worldly existence, and also bestow knowledge and wisdom both in worldly and in spiritual domains. If these teachings of Sai Baba, which are as interesting and instructive as the Vedic lore, are listened to and meditated upon, the devotees will get what they long for, thus a union with Brahma, mastery in Eightfold Yoga, bliss of meditation, etc. So I thought that I should call these stories together. That would be my best upasana. This collection would be most delightful to those simple souls whose eyes were not blessed with Sai Baba's darshan. So I set about collecting Sai Baba's teachings and expressions, the outcome of his boundless self-realization. It was Sai Baba who inspired me in this matter. In fact, I surrendered my ego at his feet and thought that my path was clear and that he would make me quite happy here and in the next world. I could not myself ask Sai Baba to give me permission for this work, so I requested Mr. Madhavrao Deshpande, alias Shama, Baba's most intimate devotee, to speak to him for me. He pleaded my cause and said to Sai Baba, "This Anna Sahib wishes to write your biography. Don't say that you are a poor fakir and there is no necessity to write it. But if you agree and help him, he will write, or rather, your grace will accomplish the work. Without your consent and blessing, nothing can be done successfully." When Sai Baba heard this request, he was moved and blessed me by giving his Udi and placing his boon-bestowing hand on my head and said, "Let him make a collection of stories and experiences. Keep notes and memos, I will help him. He is only an outward instrument. I should write my autobiography myself and satisfy the wishes of my devotees. He should get rid of his ego, surrender it at my feet. He who acts like this in life, him I help him the most. What of my life stories? I serve him in his house in all possible ways. When his ego is completely annihilated and there is left no trace of it, I myself shall enter into him and shall myself write my own life. Hearing my stories and teachings will create faith in devotees' hearts, and they will easily get self-realization and bliss. Let there be no insistence on establishing one's own view, no attempt to refute others' opinions, no discussion of pros and cons of any subject. Significant and prophetic title. The word discussion put me in mind of my promise to explain the story of my getting the title of Hemant Pant, and now I begin to relate the same. I was on close friendly terms with Kaka Sahib Dikshit and Nana Sahib Chandorkar. They pressed me to go to Shirdi and have Baba's darshan, and I promised them to do so. But something in the meanwhile turned up which prevented me from going to Shirdi. The son of a friend of mine at Lonaval fell ill. My friend tried all possible means, physical and spiritual, but the fever would not abate. At length he got his guru to sit by the bedside of his son, but this too was of no avail. Hearing this, I thought, what was the utility of the guru if he could not save my friend's son? If the guru can't do anything for us, why should I go to Shirdi at all? Thinking this way, I postponed my Shirdi trip. But the inevitable must happen, and it happened in my case as follows. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who was a divisional officer, was going on tour to Basin from Thana, and he came to Dadar and was waiting for a train bound from Basin. Meanwhile, a Bandra local turned up. He sat in it and came to Bandra and sent for me and took me to task for putting off my Shirdi trip. Nana's argument for my Shirdi trip was convincing and delightful. I decided to start for Shirdi the same night. I packed up my luggage and started for Shirdi. I planned to go to Dadar and from there to catch the train from Manmad, and so I booked myself for Dadar and sat in the train. While the train was to start, a Mohammedan came hastily to my compartment and, seeing all my paraphernalia, asked me where I was bound to. I told him about my plan. He then suggested that I should go straight to Porbandar and not to wait at Dadar, as the Manmad mail did not stop at Dadar. If this little miracle or Leela has not happened, I would not have reached Shirdi the next day as settled, and many doubts would have assailed me. But that was not to be. As fortune favored me, I reached Shirdi the next day before 9 or 10 a.m. Bhau Sahib Kaka Dikshit was waiting for me there. This was in 1910, when there was only one place at Sateswada for lodging pilgrim devotees. After alighting from the Thanga, I was anxious to have darshan when the great devotee Tatya Sahib Nulkar returned from the masjid and said that Sai Baba was at the corner of the Vada and that I should first get the preliminary darshan and then after bath see him at leisure. Hearing this, I ran and prostrated before Baba, and my joy knew no bounds. I found more than what Nana Chandorkar has told me. All my senses were satisfied and I forgot my thirst and hunger. The moment I touched Sai Baba's feet, I began a new ease of life. I felt myself much obliged to those who spurred and helped me to get the darshan, and I considered them as my real relatives and cannot repay their debt. I only remembered them and prostrate mentally before them. The peculiarity of Sai Baba's darshan, as I found it, is that by his darshan, our thoughts are changed, the force of previous actions is abated, and gradually non-attachment or dispassion towards the worldly objects grows up. It is by the merit of actions in many past births that such darshan is got, and if only you see Sai Baba, all the world assumes the form of Sai Baba. Hot discussion. On the first day of my arrival in Shirdi, there was a discussion between me and Bala Saheb Pate regarding the necessity of a guru. I contended, why should we lose our freedom and submit to others? When we have to do our duty, why a guru is necessary? One must try his best and save himself. What can the guru do to a man who does nothing but sleeps indolently? Thus I pleaded free will, while Mr. Bhate took up the other side as a destiny and said, whatever is bound to happen must happen. Even great men have failed. Man proposes one way, but God disposes the other way. Brush aside your cleverness, pride or egoism won't help you. This discussion, with all its pros and cons, went on for an hour or so, and as usual, no conclusion was arrived at. We had to stop the discussion ultimately, and as we are exhausted. The net result of this was that I lost my peace of mind and found that unless there is a strong body consciousness and egoism, there would be no discussion. In other words, it is egoism which breeds discussion. Then, when we went to the masjid with others, Baba asked Kaka Sahib Dikshit the following: what was going on in the Sateswada? What was the discussion about? And staring at me, Baba further added, what did this Hemant Pant say? Hearing these words, I was much surprised. The masjid was at a considerable distance from Satewada, where I was staying and where the discussion was going on. How could Baba know our discussion unless he be omniscient and inner ruler of us all? I began to think why Sai Baba should call me by the name Hemant Pant. This word is distorted form of Hemadri Pant. This Hemadri Pant was a well-known minister of the kings Mahadev and Ramdev of Devagiri of the Yadav dynasty. He was very learned, good-natured, and the author of works such as Chaturvarga Chintamani and Raja Prashasti. He invented and started new methods of accounts and was the originator of the Modi script. But I was quite the opposite, an ignoramus and of mediocre intellect. So I could not understand why the name or the title was conferred upon me, but thinking seriously upon it, I thought that the title was a dart to destroy my ego, so that I should always remain meek and humble. It was also a compliment paid to me for the cleverness in the discussion. Looking into history, we think Baba's word calling Mr. Dhabolkar by the name Hemant Pant was significant and prophetic, as we find that he looked after the management of Sai Sansthan very intelligently, kept all the accounts properly, and was also the author of such good work of Sai Satcharitra, which deals with such important and spiritual subjects as dhyan, bhakti, dispassion, self-surrender, and self-realization. About the necessity of a guru. Hemant Pant has left no note, no memo about what Baba said regarding this subject, but Kaka Sahib Dikshit has published his notes regarding this matter. Next day, after Hemant Pant's meeting with Sai Baba, Kaka Sahib went to Baba and asked, Baba, where to go? Baba said, high up. Then the man said, where is the way? Baba said, there are many ways leading there. There is one way from here, Shirdi also. The way is difficult. There are tigers and wolves in the jungles on the way. Kaka Sahib asked, but Baba, what if we take a guide with us? Baba answered, then there is no difficulty. The guide will take you straight to your destination, avoiding wolves, tigers and ditches, etc. on the way. If there be no guide, there is the danger of you being lost in the jungles and falling into ditches. Mr. Dhabolkar was present on this occasion, and he thought that this was the answer Baba gave to the question whether Guru was the necessity, and he thereupon took the hint that no discussion whether man is free or bound is of any use in spiritual matters. But on the contrary, real Paramatma is possible only as a result of the teachings of the Guru, as is illustrated in this chapter of the original work in the instances of great avatars like Ram and Krishna, who had to submit themselves to their gurus, Vasistha and Sandapani respectively, for getting self-realization, and that the only virtues necessary for such progress are faith and patience. Bow to Shirdi Sai. Peace be to all.
Om Sai Ram. Chapter 3. Sai Baba's sanction and promise, assignment of work to devotees, Baba's stories as beacon light, his motherly love, Rohilla's story, his sweet and nectar-like words. Sai Baba's sanction and promise. As described in the previous chapter, Sai Baba gave his complete assent to the writing of the Satcharitra and said, I fully agree with you regarding the writing of Satcharita. You do your duty. Don't be afraid in the least. Steady your mind and have faith in my words. If my Leelas are written, the avidya will vanish, and if they are attentively and devotedly listened to, the consciousness of the worldly existence will abate, and strong waves of devotion and love will rise up, and if one dives deep into my Leelas, he would get precious jewels of knowledge. Hearing this, the author was much pleased, and he at once became fearless and confident, and thought that the work was bound to be a success. Then, turning to Shama, Sai Baba said, "If a man utters my name with love, I shall fulfill all his wishes, increase his devotion, and if he sings earnestly my life and my deeds, him I shall beset in front and back and on all sides. Those devotees who are attached to me, heart and soul, will naturally feel happiness when they hear these stories. Believe me that if anybody sings my Leelas, I will give him infinite joy and everlasting contentment. It is my special characteristic to free any person who surrenders completely to me and who worships me faithfully and who remembers me and meditates on me constantly. How can they be conscious of worldly objects and sensations, who utter my name, who worship me, who think of my stories and my life, and who thus always remember me? I shall draw out my devotees from the jaws of death. If my stories are listened to, all the diseases will be got rid of. So, hear my stories with respect and think and meditate on them, assimilate them. This is the way of happiness and contentment. The pride and egoism of my devotees will vanish. The mind of the hearers will be set at rest, and if he has wholehearted and complete faith, he will be one with supreme consciousness. The simple remembrance of my name as Sai Sai will do away with sins of speech and hearing. Different works assigned to devotees. The Lord entrusts different works to different devotees. Some are given the work of building temples and mats or ghats, flight of steps on rivers. Some are made to sing the glories of God. Some are sent on pilgrimages. But to me was allocated the work of writing the Sai Satcharita. Being a jack of all trades but master of none, I was quite unqualified for this job. Then, why should I undertake such a difficult task? Who can describe the true life of Sai Baba? Sai Baba's grace alone can enable one to accomplish this difficult work. So, when I took the pen in my hand, Sai Baba took away my egoism and himself wrote his stories. The credit of relating these stories therefore goes to him and not to me. Though Brahmin by birth, I lacked the two eyes, that is the sight or vision of Shruti and Smruti, and therefore was not at all capable of writing the Satcharita. But the grace of the Lord makes a dumb man talk, enables a lame man to cross a mountain. He alone knows the ways of getting things done as he likes. Neither the flute nor the harmonium knows how the sounds are produced. This is the concern of the player. The oozing of Chandrakant jewel and the searching of the sea are not due to the jewel and the sea, but due to the rising of the moon. Baba's stories has become light. Lighthouses are constructed at various places in the sea. Lighthouses are constructed at various places in the sea to enable the boatmen to avoid rocks and dangers and make them sail safely. Sai Baba's stories serve a similar purpose in the ocean of worldly existence. They surpass nectar in sweetness and make our worldly path smooth and easy to traverse. Blessed are the stories of the saints. When they enter our hearts through our ears, the body consciousness or egoism and the sense of duality vanish. And when they are stored in the heart, doubts will await, pride of the body will fall, and wisdom will be stored in abundance. The description of Baba's pure fame and the hearing of the same with love will destroy the sins of the devotee, and therefore this is the simple sadhana for attaining salvation. The sadhana for Krita age was samadhana, tranquility of mind and body. For Treta age, sacrifice. For Dwapar, worship. And for Kali, the present age, it is singing of the name and glory of the Lord. This last sadhana is open to all the people of the four varnas, Brahmins, etc. The other sadhanas, that is Yoga Tyaga, sacrifice, Dhyan, meditation, and Dhyan Dharana, concentration, are very difficult to practice. But singing and hearing the stories and the glory of the Lord Sai Baba is very easy. We have only to turn our attention towards them. The listening to and singing of the stories will remove the attachment to the senses and their objects and will make the devotees dispassionate and will ultimately lead them to self-realization. With this end in view, Sai Baba made me write his stories as Satcharita. The devotees may now easily read and hear these stories of Sai Baba and while doing so, meditate on him, his form, and thus attain devotion to Guru and God Sai Baba, get dispassion and self-realization. In the preparation and writing of this work Satcharita, it is Sai Baba's grace which has accomplished everything, making use of me as a mere instrument. Motherly love of Sai Baba. Everybody knows how a cow loves her infant calf. Her udder is always full, and when the calf wants milk and dashes at the udder, out comes the milk in unceasing flow. Similarly, a human mother knows the wants of her child beforehand and feeds him at her breast in time. In case of dressing and adorning the child, the mother takes particular care to see that this is well done. The child knows or cares nothing about this, but the mother's joy knows no bounds when she sees her child well dressed and adorned. The love of the mother is peculiar, extraordinary, and disinterested, and has no parallel. Sadgurus feel this motherly love towards their disciples. Sai Baba had the same love towards me, and I give an instance of it below. In 1916, I retired from government service. The pension that was settled in my case was not sufficient to maintain my family decently. On Gunu Purnima, 15th of Ashada day of that year, I went to Shirdi with other devotees. There Mr. Anna Chinchinkar, of his own accord, prayed to Baba for me as follows. Please look kindly at him. The pension he gets is quite insufficient. His family is growing. Give him some other appointment, remove his anxiety and make him happy. Baba replied, he will get some other job, but now he should serve me and be happy. His plates will be ever full and never empty. He should turn all his attention towards me and avoid the company of atheists, irreligious and wicked people. He should be modest and humble towards all and worship me with heart and soul. If he does this, he will get the eternal happiness. The question, who is this he whose worship is advocated, is already answered in a note on Who is Sai Baba in the prologue at the beginning of this work. Rohilla's story. The story of the Rohilla illustrates Sai Baba's all-embracing love. One Rohilla, tall and well-built, strong as a bull, came to Shirdi wearing a long kafni-touched robe and was enamored of the Sai who stayed there. Day and night he used to recite in a loud and harsh tone the kalma, that is the verses from the Holy Quran, and shout Allahu Akbar, God is great. Most people of Shirdi were working in their fields during the day, and when they returned to their homes at night, they were welcomed with Rohilla's harsh cries and shouts. They could get no sleep and felt much trouble and inconvenience. They suffered this nuisance for some days in silence, and when they could stand it no longer, they approached Baba and requested him to check the Rohilla and stop the nuisance. Baba did not attend to their complaint. On the contrary, Baba took the villagers to task and asked them to mind their own business. He said to them that the Rohilla had got a very bad wife who tried to trouble Rohilla and himself, but hearing the Rohilla's prayers, she dared not enter and they were at peace. In fact, the Rohilla had no wife, and by his wife Baba meant Durbuddhi, that is the evil thoughts. As Baba liked prayers and cries to God better than anything else, he took the side of the Rohilla and asked the villagers to wait and bear with their nuisance, which would abate in due course. Baba's sweet and nectar-like words. One day at noon after Arati, devotees were returning to their lodgings when Baba gave the following beautiful advice. Be wherever you like, do whatever you choose. Remember this well that all what you do is known to me. I am the inner ruler of all and seated in your hearts. I am the controller, the wire puller of show of this universe. I am the mother, origin of all beings, and harmony of three gunas, the propeller of all senses, the creator, preserver, and destroyer. Nothing will harm him who turns his attention towards me, but Maya will lash or whip him who forgets me. All the insects, ants, the visible, movable, and immovable world is my body or form. Hearing these beautiful and precious words, I at once decided in my mind to serve no man henceforth but my Guru only. But the reply of Baba to Anna Chinchinkar's query, which was really mine, that I would get some job, began to revolve in my mind, and I began to think whether it would come to happen. As future events showed, Baba's words came true, and I got a government job, but that was of short duration. Then I became free and devoted myself solely to the service of my Guru, Sai Baba. Before concluding this chapter, I request the readers to leave out the various hindrances, that is, indolence, sleep, wandering of mind, attachments to senses, etc., and turn their whole and undivided attention to these stories of Sai Baba. Let their love be natural. Let them know the secret of devotion. Let them not exhaust themselves by other sadhanas. Let them stick to this simple remedy, that is, listening to Sai Baba's stories. This will destroy their ignorance and will secure for them salvation. A miser may stay at various places, but he constantly thinks of his buried treasure. So let Sai Baba be enthroned in the hearts of all. In the next chapter, I shall speak of Sai Baba's advent in Shirdi. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all. Sai Ram, Chapter 4, Sai Baba's first advent in Shirdi. Mission of the Saints, Shirdi a holy Tirth, personality of Sai Baba, dictum of Kavlibhuva, appearance of Vithal, Ksheerasagar's story, Dasaganu's bath in Prayag, immaculate conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. Three Vadas. In the last chapter, I described the circumstances which led me to write Sai Satcharita. Let me now describe the first advent of Sai Baba in Shirdi. Mission of the Saints. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that whenever there is a decay of dharma, righteousness, and an ascendancy of unrighteousness, I manifest myself for the protection of the virtuous and the destruction of the vicars, and for the establishment of righteousness, I manifest myself age after age. This is the mission of two Lord and the sages and saints who are his representatives and who appear at appropriate times and work in their own way to fulfill that mission. For instance, when the twice born, that is the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas neglect their duties, and when the Shudras try to usurp the duties of other classes, when spiritual preceptors are not respected but humiliated, when nobody cares for religious instructions, when everybody thinks himself very learned, when people begin to partake of forbidden foods and intoxicating drinks, and under the cloak of religion people indulge in malpractices, when people belonging to different sects fight amongst themselves, when Brahmins fail to do Sandhya adoration and the Orthodox leave their religious practices, when yogis neglect their meditation, when people begin to think that wealth, progeny, wife are their sole concern, and thus turn away from the true path of salvation, then saints appear and try to set matters right by their words and action. They serve us as beacon lights and show us the path and the right way for us to follow. In this way, many saints, that is Nivrutti, Dhyanadev, Muktabai, Namdev, Gora, Gunai, Eknath, Tukaram, Narahari, Narsibhai, Sajan Kaise, Savata, Ramadas, and various others did appear at various times to show the right path to the people. And so, the present Advent came as Shri Sai Baba of Shirdi. Shirdi, a holy Tirth. The banks of the Godavari River in the Ahmednagar district are very fortunate, for they gave birth and refuge to many a saint, prominent amongst them being Jnaneshwar. Shirdi also falls in the Kopargam Taluka or the Ahmednagar district. After crossing the Godavari river at Kopargam, one gets on way to Shirdi. When you go there, 3 kilometers, you come to Nimgam, from where Shirdi is visible. Shirdi is as famous and well known as other holy places like Gangapur, Disambavadi, Audambar on the banks of Krishna river. As the devotee Damoji flourished and blessed Mangalvedha near Pandharpur, as Samartha Ramadas as Sachamgarh, as Sri Nrisimha Saraswati as Saraswati Vada, so Sainath flourished at Shirdi and blessed it. Personality of Sai Baba. It is on account of Sri Sai Baba that Shirdi grew into importance. Let us see what sort of a personage Sai Baba was. He conquered this sansar, the worldly existence, which is very difficult and hard to cross. Peace or mental calm was his ornament, and he was the repository of wisdom. He was the home of Vaishnav devotees, most generous like Karna amongst all, the quintessence of all essences. He had no love for perishable things and was always engrossed in self realization, which was his sole concern. He felt no pleasure in the things of this world or of the world beyond. His antarang was as clear as a mirror, and his speech always rained nectar. The rich or poor people were the same to him. He neither knew nor cared for honor or dishonor. He was the Lord of all beings. He spoke freely and mixed with all people, watched the actings and dances of Nach girls, and heard ghazal songs. Still, he served not an inch from samadhi, that is a mental equilibrium. The name of the Allah was always on his lips. While the world awoke, he slept, and while the world slept, he was vigilant. His inner shelf was as calm as the deep sea. His ashram could not be determined, nor his actions could be definitely determined, and though he sat in one place, he knew all the transactions of the world. His darbar was imposing. He told hundreds of stories daily. Still, he served not an inch from his vow of silence. He always leaned against the wall in the masjid or walked morning, noon, and evening towards Lendi and Chavadi. Still, he at all times abided in the self. Though a Siddha, he acted like a Sadhaka. He was meek, humble, and egoless, and pleased all. Such was Sai Baba, and as the soil of Shirdi was trodden by Sai Baba's feet, it attained extraordinary importance. A Dhyaneshwar elevated Alandi, Eknath hit to Paitan. So Sai Baba raised Shirdi. Blessed are the grass leaves and stones of Shirdi, for they could kiss the holy feet of Sai Baba and take his dust on their head. Shirdi became to us devotees another Pandharpur, Jagannath, Dwaraka, Benares, Kashi, and Rameshwar, Bhadrikedar, Nasik, Trayambakeshwar, Ujjain, and Mahakaleshwar or Mahabaleshwar Gokarn. Contact of Sai Baba in Shirdi was like a study of Veda and Tantra. It quietened our sansar and rendered self-realization. The darshan of Sri Sai was a yoga sadhana, and talk with him removed our sins. Shampooing his legs was a bath in Triveni Prayag, and drinking the holy water of his feet destroyed our sin. To us his commands were Vedas, and accepting his Udi and Prasad was all purifying. He was our Sri Krishna and Sri Ram who gave us solace, and he was our Parabrahma, the absolute reality. He was himself beyond the pair of Dvandvas, the opposites, never dejected nor elated. He was always engrossed in his self as existence, knowledge, and bliss. Shirdi was his center, but his field of action extended far beyond to Punjab, Calcutta, North India, Gujarat, Dhaka, and Konkan. Thus the fame of Sai Baba spread far and wide, and people from all parts came to take his darshan and be blessed. By mere darshan, minds of people, whether pure or impure, would become quiet at once. They got here the same unparalleled joy that devotees get at Pandharpur by seeing Vithal Rakumai. This is not an exaggeration. Consider what a devotee says in this respect. Dictum of Gauli Buva. An old devotee by name Gauli Buva, aged about 95 years, was a Varkari of Pandari. He stayed for 8 months at Pandharpur and for 4 months, Ashara to Kartik, that is July to November, on the banks of Ganges. He had a donkey with him for carrying his luggage, and a disciple as his companion. Every year he made his wari or trip to Pandharpur and came to Shirdi to see Sai Baba, whom he loved most. He used to gaze at Baba saying, "This is Pandharinath Vittal incarnate, the merciful Lord of the poor and helpless." This Gauli Buva was an old devotee of Vitoba and had made many a trip to Pandari, and he testified that Sai Baba was real Pandharinath. Vittal himself appeared. Sai Baba was very fond of remembering and singing God's name. He always uttered Allah, God is Lord, and in his presence made others sing God's name continuously day and night for all 7 weeks of the day. This is called Nam Saptah. Once he asked Dasaganu Maharaj to do the Nam Saptah. He replied that he would do it provided he was assured that Vittal would appear at the end of seventh day. Then Baba, placing his hand on his chest, assured him that certainly Vittal would appear. But for that the devotee must be earnest and devout. The Dhankapuri of Thakurnath, the Pandari of Vittal, the Dwaraka of Ranchod is here in Shirdi. One need not go far out to see Dwaraka. Will Vittal come here from some outside place? He is here. Only when the devotee is bursting with love and devotion, Vittal will manifest himself here in Shirdi. After the Saptah was over, Vittal did manifest himself in the following manner. Kaka Sahib Dikshit was as usual sitting in meditation after his bath. He saw Vittal in a vision. When he went at noon for Baba's darshan, Baba asked him point blank, "Did Vittal Patel come? Did you see him? He is a very strong fellow. Catch him firmly. Otherwise, he will escape if you are even a little inattentive." This happened in the morning, and at noon there was another Vittal darshan. A hawker came there for selling 25 or 30 pictures of Vitoba. This picture exactly tallied with the figure that had appeared in Kaka Sahib's vision. On seeing this and remembering Baba's words, Kaka Sahib Dikshit was much surprised and delighted. He bought one picture of Vitoba and placed it in his shrine for worship. Bhagwantrao Shir Sagar's story. How fond was Baba for Vittal worship was illustrated in Bhagwantrao Shir Sagar's story. The father of Bhagwantrao was a devotee of Vitoba and used to make Varis annual trips to Pandharpur. He also had an image of Vitoba at home which he worshipped. After his death, the son stopped everything, the Vari, the worship and Shraddha ceremony, etc. When Bhagwantrao came to Shirdi, Baba, on remembering his father, at once said, "His father was my friend, so I dragged him here. He never offered Naivedya, and so he starved Vittal and me. So I brought him here. I shall remonstrate him now and set him to worship." Dasaganu's bath in Prayag. The Hindus think that a bath in the holy Tirtha of Prayag, where the Ganga and the Yamuna meet, is very meritorious, and thousands of pilgrims go there periodically to have the sacred bath there. Once Dasaganu thought that he should go to Prayag for a bath and came to Baba to get his permission for doing so. Baba replied to him, "It is not necessary to go so far. Our Prayag is here, believe me." Then, wonder of wonders, when Dasaganu placed his head on Baba's feet, out flowed streams of Ganga, Yamuna water from both the towels of Baba. Seeing this miracle, Dasaganu was overwhelmed with feelings of love and adoration, and tears filled my eyes. Inwardly, he felt inspired, and his speech burst forth into a song in praise of Baba and his Leelas. Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. Nobody knew the parents, birth or birthplace of Sai Baba. Many enquiries were made. Many questions were put to Baba and others regarding these, but no satisfactory answer or information has been yet obtained. Practically, we know nothing about these matters. Ramadev and Kabir were not born like ordinary mortals. They were found as infants in mother of pearls, Namadev being found on the bank Bhimrati river by Gunai and Kabir on the bank Bhagirathi river by Thamel. Similar was the case with Sai Baba. He first manifested himself as a young lad of 16 years under a neem tree in Shirdi for the sake of bhaktas. Even then, he seemed to be full of the knowledge of Brahma. He had no desire for worldly objects even in dreams. He kicked out Maya and Mukti deliverance was serving at his feet. One old woman of Shirdi, the mother of Nana Chabda, described him thus: this young lad, fair, smart, and very handsome, was first seen under the neem tree seated in an asan. The people of the village were wonderstruck to see such a young lad practicing hard penance, not minding heat and cold. By day he associated with none, by night he was afraid of nobody. People were wondering and asking, hence this young chap had turned up. His form and features were so beautiful that a mere look endeared him to all. He went to nobody's door, always sat near the neem tree. Outwardly he looked very young, but by his action he was really a great soul. He was the dominant of dispassion and was an enigma to all. One day it so happened that God Khandoba possessed the body of some devotee, and people began to ask him, Deva, you please inquire, what blessed father's son is this lad, and whence did he come? God Kandoba asked them to bring a pickaxe and dig in a particular place. When it was dark, bricks were found underneath a flat stone. When the stone was removed, a corridor was seen in which four samis the lights were burning. The corridor led to a cellar where cow-mouth shaped structures, wooden boards, rosaries were seen. Khandoba said, this lad practiced penance here for 12 years. Then the people began to question the lad about this. He put them off by telling them that this was his guru's place, his holy vatan, and requested them to guard this well. The people then closed the corridor as before. As Ashwatha and Adumba trees were held sacred, Baba regarded this neem tree equally sacred and loved it most. Mahasapati and other Shirdi devotees cite as the resting place the Samadhi Sthan of Baba's Guru and prostrate before it. Three Vadas. The site with the neem tree and surrounding space was bought by Mr. Hari Vinayak Sate, and on this site a big building style Sate's Vada was erected. This Vada was the sole resting place for pilgrims who flocked there. A platform was built around the neem tree and lofts with steps were constructed. Under the steps there is a niche facing south and devotees sit on the path platform facing north. It is believed that he who burns incense there on Thursday and Friday evenings will by God's grace be happy. This Vada was old and dilapidated and needed repairs. The necessary repairs, additions and alterations have been made now by the Sansthan. Then, after some years, another Vada, Dikshit's Vada, was constructed. Kaka Sahib Dikshit, solicitor of Mumbai, had gone to England. He had injured his leg in an accident there. The injury could not be rid of by any means. Nana Sahib Chandorkar advised him to see Sai Baba. So, he went to Sai Baba in 1909 and requested him to cure the lameness of his mind rather than that of his leg. He was so much pleased at the darshan of Sai Baba that he decided to reside in Shirdi. So he built a Vada for himself and other devotees. The foundation of this building was laid on 10/12/1910. On this day, two other important events took place. Mr. Dada Saheb Kapade was given permission to return home, and the night Arati at the Chavdi was started. The Vada was completed and was inhabited on the Ramanavami day in 1911 with due rites and formalities. Then another Vada or palatial mansion was put up by the famous millionaire Mr. Bhuti of Nagpur. A lot of money was spent on this building, but it was all well utilized as Sai Baba's body is resting in this Vada, which is now called the Samadhi Mandir. The site of this mandir formerly had a garden which was watered and looked after by Baba. Three Vadas thus came up where there are none formerly. Of this, Sate's Vada was most useful to all in the early days. The story of the garden, which was attended by Sai Baba with the help of Raman Tatya, the temporary absence of Sai Baba from Shirdi, and his coming again to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Patel, the company of Devi Das, Janaki Das, and Gangagir, Baba's wrestling match with Moiddin Thamboli, residing in the masjid, love of Mr. Dhengli, and other devotees, and other incidents will be described in the next chapter. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all. Om Sai Ram. Chapter 5. Baba's return with Chand Patel's marriage party, welcomed and addressed as Sai, contact with other saints, his attire and daily routine, the story of the Padukas, wrestling bout with Moiddin and change in life, turning water into oil, the pseudo guru Jawhar Ali. Written by Chand Patel's marriage party. As hinted in the last chapter, I shall now describe first how Sai Baba returned to Shirdi after his disappearance. They lived in the Aurangabad district, Nizam state, in a village called Dhoop, a well-to-do Mohammedan gentleman by name Chand Patel. While he was making a trip to Aurangabad, he lost his mare. For 2 long months he made a diligent search but could get no trace of the lost mare. After being disappointed, he returned from Aurangabad with the saddle on his back. After travelling 4 kilometers and a half, he came on the way to a mango tree at the foot of which sat a fakir, a queer fellow. He had a cap on his head, worn kafni, the long robe, and had a satka, the short stick, under his arm, and he was preparing to smoke a chilim, the pipe. On seeing Chand Patel pass by, he called out to him and asked him to have a smoke and to rest a little. The queer fellow or the fakir asked him about saddle. Chand Patel replied that it was of his mare, which was lost some time back. The fakir asked him to make a search in the nala close by. He went, and the wonder of wonders, he found the mare there. He thought that this fakir was not an ordinary man, but an Avilya, a great saint. He returned to the fakir with the mare. The chilim was ready for being smoked, but 2 things were wanting. One is the fire to light the pipe, and 2, the water to wet the chappi, the piece of cloth through which smoke is drawn up. The fakir took his prong and thrust it forcibly into the ground, and out came a live ember, which he put it on the pipe. Then he dashed the satka on the ground, from where water began to ooze. The chappi was wetted with that water and wrung out and wrapped down the pipe. Thus, everything being complete, the fakir smoked the chilim and then gave it to Chand Patel. On seeing all this, Chand Patel was wonderstruck. He requested the fakir to come to his home and accept his hospitality. Next day, he went to Patel's house and stayed there for some time. Patel was a village officer at Dhoop. His wife's brother's son was to be married, and the bride was from Shirdi. So Patel made preparations to start for Shirdi for the marriage. The fakir also accompanied the marriage party. The marriage went off without any hitch. The party returned to Dhoop except the fakir, who stayed back in Shirdi and remained there forever. How the fakir got the name Sai. When the marriage party came to Shirdi, it enlightened at the foot of the banyan tree in Bhagat Mahesapati's field near Khandoba temple. The carts were loosened in the open courtyard of Khandoba's temple, and the members of the party descended one by one, and the fakir also got down. Bhagat Mahesapati saw the young fakir getting down and accosted him, "Ya Sai, welcome Sai." Others also addressed him as Sai, and henceforth he became Sai Baba. Contact with other saints. Sai Baba began to stay in a deserted masjid. One saint named Devi Das had been living in Shirdi for many years before Baba came there. Baba liked his company. He stayed with him in the Maruti temple in the Chavdi and for some time lived alone. Then came another saint by name Janaki Das. Baba spent most of his time in talking with him, or Janaki Das went to Baba's residence. So also one Vaishnava householder saint from Putambe by name Gangagir also frequented Shirdi. When he first saw Sai Baba carrying pitchers of water in both hands for watering the garden, he was amazed and said openly, "Blessed is Shirdi that it got this precious jewel." This man is carrying water today, but he is not an ordinary fellow. As this land, the Shirdi, was fortunate and meritorious, it secured this jewel. So also one famous saint by name Anandnath of Yavalnath, a disciple of Akkalkot Maharaj, came to Shirdi with some people. When he saw Sai Baba, he said openly, "This is a precious diamond in reality." Though he looks like an ordinary man, he is not an ordinary stone, but a diamond. You will realize this in the near future. Saying this, he returned to Yavala. This was said while Sai Baba was a youngster. Baba's dress and daily routine. In his young days, Sai Baba grew the hair on his head, never had his head shaved. He dressed like an athlete. When he went to Rahta 3 miles from Shirdi, he brought with him some plants of marigold, jai and jew, and after cleaning them, he planted and watered them. A devotee by name Vaman Tathya supplied him daily with 2 unbaked earthen pitchers. With these, Sai Baba himself used to water the plants. He drew water from the well and carried the pitchers on his shoulders. In the evening, the pitchers were kept at the foot of the neem tree. As soon as they were placed there, they broke as they were made of mud and not baked. Next day, Tatya supplied 2 fresh pitchers. This course went on for 3 years, and with Sai Baba's toil and effort, they grew a garden. On this site at present stands the big mansion Samadhi Mandir of Baba, which is now frequented by so many devotees. The story of Padukas, the footprints under the neem tree. A devotee of Akkalkot Maharaj by name Bhai Krishnaji Alibhakkar worshipped the photo of Akkalkot Maharaj. He once thought of going to Akkalkot in Solapur district, take the darshan of the Padukas, footprints of the Maharaj, and offer his sincere prayer there, but before he could go there, he got a vision in his dream. Akkalkot Maharaj appeared in the vision and said to him, "Now Shirdi is my resting place. Go there and offer your worship." So Bhai changed his plan and came to Shirdi, worshipped Baba, stayed there for 6 months and was happy. As remnants of the vision, etc., he prepared the Padukas and installed them on the auspicious day of Shravan Shaka, 1834, that is 1912 AD, under the neem tree with due ceremonies and formalities conducted by Dada Kelkar and Upasani. One Dikshit Brahman was appointed for worship and the management was entrusted to devotee Sagun. Complete version of this story. Mr. B.B. Theb, retired Mamlatadar of Thana and a great devotee of Sai Baba, made enquiries about this matter with Sagun Mer Naik and Govind Kamalkar Dikshit and has published the full version of the Padukas in Sai Leela, Volume 2, Number 1, page 25. It runs as follows. In 1834 Sakha, that is 1912 AD, when Dr. Raman Rao Kothare of Mumbai came to Shirdi for Baba's darshan. His compounder and his friend Bhai Krishnaji Alibhakkar accompanied him. The compounder and Bhai became intimate with Sagun Mer Naik and G.K. Dikshit. While discussing things, these persons thought that there must be some memorial of Sai's first advent at Shirdi and his sitting under the holy neem tree. They thought of installing Baba's Padukas there and were going to make them of some rough stone. Then Bhai's friend, the compounder, suggested that if this matter was made known to his master, Dr. Ramarao Kothare, he would prepare nice Padukas for this purpose. All liked this proposal and Dr. Kothare was informed of it. He came to Shirdi and drew a plan of the Padukas. He went to Upasani Maharaj in Khandoba's temple and showed him his plan. The latter made many improvements, drew lotus, flowers, conch, disc, maize, etc. and suggested that the following shloka regarding neem tree's greatness and Baba's yogic powers be inscribed. The verse was as follows. Sadanimba vrikshasya mooladhivasat Sudastavinam tiktamapyapriyantam Tharunkalpa vrukshaditham sadhayantam Namamishwaram Sadgurum Sainadham. Upasani's suggestions were accepted and carried out. The Padukas were made in Mumbai and sent to Shirdi with the compounder. Baba said that they should be installed on the Purnima of Shravan. On that day at 11 a.m., G.K. Dixit brought them on his head from Khandoba's temple to the Dwarkamai Masjid in a procession. Baba touched the Padukas, saying that these are the feet of the Lord, and asked the people to install them at foot of the neem tree. A day earlier, one Parsi devotee of Mumbai named Pastor Sheikh sent rupees 25 by money order. Baba gave this sum for the installation of the Padukas. The total expense of installation came up to rupees 100, out of which rupees 75 were collected by subscriptions. For the first 5 years, G.K. Dixit worshipped the Padukas daily, and then this was done by Lakshman Kacheshwar Chakhadi. In the first 5 years, Dr. Kothari sent rupees 2 per month for lighting the lamp, and he also sent the railing around the Padukas. The expense of bringing the railing from the station to Shirdi, presently 7.5 rupees, and roofing was paid by Sagun Mer Naik. Now Jhakadi Nana Pujari does the worship, and Sagun Mer Naik offers the Naivedya and lights the evening lamps. Bhai Krishnaji was originally a devotee of Akkalkot Maharaj. He had come to Shirdi at the installation of the Padukas in Shakha 1834 on his way to Akkalkot. He wanted to go to Akkalkot after taking darshan of Baba. He asked Baba's permission for this. Baba said, "Oh, what is there in Akkalkot? Why do you go there? The Maharaj of that place is here, myself." Hearing this, Bhai did not go to Akkalkot. He came to Shirdi off and on after the installation of the Padukas. Mr. B.V. Dev concluded that Hemantpant did not know these details. Had he known them, he would not have failed to depict them in his Satcharitra. Wrestling bout with Moidhin Tamboli and change in lifestyle. To return to other stories of Baba, there was Wastrel in Shirdi by name Moidhin Tamboli. Baba and he did not agree on some points and both had a fight. In this, Baba was defeated. Henceforth, Baba changed his dress and mode of living. He donned kafni, wore a langboat waistband and covered his head with a piece of cloth. He took a piece of sackcloth for his bed and was content with wearing torn and worn-out rags. He always said that poverty is better than kingship, far better than lordship. The Lord is always brother of the poor. Gangadhar was also very fond of wrestling. Once while he was wrestling, a similar feeling of dispassion descended over him, and at the proper time he heard the voice of Adept saying that he should wear out his body playing with God. So he too gave up sansar and turned towards God realization. He established a mutt on the banks of the river near Puthambe and lived there with his disciples. Sai Baba did not mix and speak with the people. He only gave answers when he was questioned. By day he always sat under the neem tree, sometimes in the shade of a babel tree near the stream on the outskirts of the village. In the afternoon he used to walk at random and go to times to Nimgaon. There he frequented the house of Bala Saheb Renle. Baba loved Mr. Bala Saheb. His younger brother named Nana Saheb had no son, though he married a second wife. Bala Saheb sent Nana Saheb for taking darshan of Sai Baba, and after some time, with his grace, Nana Saheb got a son. From that time onwards, people began to come in large numbers to see Sai Baba, and his fame began to spread and reached Ahmednagar. From hence, Nana Saheb Chandorkar and Keshav Chidambar and many others began to come to Shirdi. Baba was surrounded by his devotees during the day and slept at night in an old and dilapidated receipt. Baba's paraphernalia at this time consists of a chillin, tobacco, a thumbnail tin pot, long kafni, a piece of cloth around his neck, and satka, a short stick, which he always kept with him. The piece of white cloth on the head was twisted like matted hair and flowed down from the left ear on the back. This was not washed for weeks. He wore no shoes, no sandals. A piece of sackcloth was his seat for most of the day. He wore a khopin, the waistcloth band, and for warding off cold, he always sat in front of a dhuni, the sacred fire, facing south, with his left hand resting on the wooden railing. In that dhuni, he offered a oblation of egoism, desires, and always uttered Allah Malik. God is the sole owner. The masjid in which he sat was only of 2-room dimensions. where all devotees came and saw him. After 1912, there was a change. The old masjid was repaired and Freeman was constructed. Before Baba came to live in this masjid, he lived for a long time in a place Takia, where with ghungru small bells tied on his ankles, Baba danced beautifully and sang with tender love, turning water into oil. Sai Baba was very fond of lights. He used to borrow oil from shopkeepers and keep lamps burning the whole night in the masjid and temple. This went on for some time. The Vanyans who supplied oil gratis once met together and decided not to give him oil. When, as usual, Baba went to ask for oil, they all gave him a distinct no, unperturbed. Baba returned to the masjid and kept the dry wicks in the lamps. The Vanyans were watching him with curiosity. Baba took the tumbler, the tin pot which contained very little, a few drops oil, put water into it and drank it, and then forced it out to fall into the container. After consecrating the tin pot in this way, he again took the water from the tin pot and filled all the lamps with it and lighted them. To the surprise and dismay of the watching Brahmins, the lamps began to burn and kept burning the whole night. The Bhanyas repented and apologized, and Baba forgave them and asked them to be more truthful in future. The pseudo-guru Jawhar Ali. 5 years after the wrestling bout above mentioned, one fakir from Ahmednagar by name Jawhar Ali came to Rahata with his disciples and stayed in Dhakal, the spacious room near Veerabhadra temple. The fakir was learned, could repeat the whole Quran and had a sweet tongue. Many religious and devout people of the village came to him and began to respect him. With the help of the people, he started to build a Eidgah, a walled enclosure, in which Mohammedans pray on Eid day, near the Veerabhadra temple. There was some quarrel about this affair, on account of which Jawahar Ali had to leave Rahata. Then he came to Shirdi and lived in the masjid with Baba. People were captured by his sweet talk and he began to call Baba his disciple. Baba did not object and consented to be his Chela, that's disciple. Then both Guru and Chela decided to return to Rahata and lived there. The Guru never knew his disciple's worth, but the disciple knew the shortcomings of the Guru. Still, he never disrespected him, observing carefully his duties. He even served the master in various ways. They used to come to Shirdi off and on, but their mainstay was in Rahata. The loving devotees of Baba in Shirdi did not like that Baba should stay away from them in Rahata. So they went in a deputation to bring Baba back to Shirdi. When they met Baba near the Eidgah and told the purpose for which they came, Baba said to them that the fakir was an angry, ill-tempered fellow. He would not leave him and that they should better go back to Shirdi without him before the fakir returned. While they were thus talking, the fakir turned up and was very angry with them for trying to take away his disciple. There was some hot discussion and altercation, and it was finally decided that both the Guru and Chela should return to Shirdi. And so they returned and lived in Shirdi, but after a few days, the Guru was tested by Devidas and he was found wanting. 12 years before Baba arrived in Shirdi with the marriage party, this Devidas, aged about 10 or 12 years, came to Shirdi and lived in the Maruti temple. Devidas had fine features and brilliant eyes, and he was dispassionate, incarnate, and a dhyani. Many people, namely Tatyakote Kashinath and others, regarded him as their guru. They brought Jawahar Ali in his presence, and in the discussion that followed, Jawahar was worsted and fled from Shirdi. He went and stayed in the Bijapur and returned after many years to Shirdi and prostrated himself before Sai Baba. The delusion that he was Guru and Sai Baba his Chella was cleared away, and as he repented, Sai Baba treated him with respect. In this case, Sai Baba showed by his conduct how one should get rid of egoism and do the duties of a disciple to attain the highest end, that is self-realization. This story is told here according to the version given by Mahasapati, a great devotee of Baba. In the next chapter, Ramanavami festival, the masjid, its former condition and later improvement in it, etc. will be described. Bow to Shri Sai. Peace be to all. Om Sai Ram. Chapter 6 Ramanavami Festival and Masjid Repairs. Efficacy of the touch of the Guru's hand. Ramanavami Festival, its origin, transformation, etc. Repairs of the Masjid. Before describing Ramanavami Festival and Masjid repairs, the author makes some preliminary remarks about Sadguru as follows. Efficacy of the touch of the Guru's hand. When Sadguru is the helmsman, he is sure to carry us safely and easily beyond the worldly ocean. The word Sadguru brings to mind Sai Baba, the perfect master. He appears to me as if standing before me and applying Woody to my forehead and placing his hand of blessing on my head. Then joy fills my heart and love overflows my eyes. Wonderful is the power of the touch of Guru's hand. The subtle body, the consisting of thoughts and desires which cannot be burnt by the cross fire, is destroyed by the mere touch of the Guru's hand, and the sins of many past births are cleaned and washed away. Even the speech of those who feel agitated when they hear religious and godly talks attain calmness. The sight of Sai Baba's handsome form chokes our throat with joy, makes the eyes overflow with tears and overwhelms the heart with emotion. It awakens in us, I am He. Brahma consciousness manifests the joy of self-realization, and dissolving the distinction of I and thou makes us one with the Supreme. When I begin to read scriptures, at every step I am reminded of my Sadguru, Sai Baba, who assumes the form of Rama or Krishna and makes me listen to his life. For instance, when I sit to listen to Bhagavad, Sai becomes Krishna from top to toe, and I think he sings the Bhagavad or Uddhav Gita, that is a song of teachings by Lord Sri Krishna to his disciple Uddhav for the welfare of the devotees. When I myself start to write anything, I cannot compose a few words or sentences. But when he of his own accord makes me write, I go on writing, and there is no end to it. When the disciple's egoism props up, he presses it down with his hand and gives him his own power, makes him achieve his object, and thus satisfies and blesses him, and surrenders his heart and soul to him. Then all the chief objects of life, that is the dharma, righteousness, artha, wealth, kama, desire, and moksha, deliverance, are attained easily and unsolicitedly. Four paths, that is of karma, dhyan, yoga, and bhakti, led us separately to God. Of these, the path of bhakti is thorny and full of pits and ditches, and thus difficult to traverse. But if you, relying on your Sadguru, avoid the pits and thorns and walk straight, it will take you to your destination, that is God. So says Sai Baba. After philosophizing about the self-existent Brahma, his power to create this world and the world created, and stating that all these three are ultimately one and the same, the author quotes Sai Baba's words guaranteeing the welfare of the bhaktas. There will never be any dearth or scarcity regarding food and clothes in my devotees' home. It is my special characteristic, and I always look to and provide for the welfare of those devotees who worship me wholeheartedly with their minds ever fixed on me. Lord Krishna has also said the same in Gita. Therefore, strive not much for food and clothes. If you want anything, beg of the Lord. Renounce worldly honors, try to get God's grace and blessings, and be honored in His court. Do not be deluded by words' honor. The form of deity should be firmly fixed in the mind. Let all the senses and mind be ever devoted to the worship of the Lord. Let there be no attraction for any other thing. Fix the mind in remembering me always, so that it will not wander elsewhere towards body, wealth, and home. Then it will be calm, peaceful, and carefree. This is the sign of the mind being well engaged in good company. If the mind is vagrant, it cannot be called well immersed in Him. After quoting these words, the author goes on to relate the story of Ramanavami festival in Shirdi. As Ramanavami is the most celebrated festival at Shirdi, another fuller account is published in Shirdi Sai Leela magazine of 1925, page 197, is also referred to, and a summary of the festival as related in both these accounts is attempted here. Origin. One Mr. Gopalrao Gund was surveyor in survey department at Kopargam. He was a great devotee of Baba. He had 3 wives but had no issue. With Sai Baba's blessings, a son was born to him. In the joy that he felt due to this, an idea of celebrating a fair or urus occurred to him in the year 1897, and he placed it for consideration before other Shirdi devotees, that is Tatya Patel, Dadakote Patel, and Madhavrao Deshpande Shyama. They all approved of the idea and obtained Sai Baba's permission and blessings for it. Then an application was made to get the collector's sanction for celebrating the Urus, but as the village Kulkarni held against holding the fair, the sanction was refused. But as Sai Baba had blessed it, they tried again and ultimately succeeded in getting the collector's sanction. The day for the Urus was fixed on Ramanavami after having consultation with Sai Baba. It seems he had some purpose behind this. That is the unification of the two festivals, the Urus and the Ramanavami, and the unification of the two communities, the Hindus and the Mohammedans. As future events showed, this end or object was duly achieved. Though the permission was obtained, but other difficulties cropped up. Shirdi was a village and there was scarcity of water. There were two wells in the village. The one in use dried up soon, and the water from the second was brackish. This brackish water was turned into sweet water by Sai Baba by putting flowers into it. As the water of this well was insufficient, so Tatya Patel had to arrange to get water from outside. Temporary shops were to be constructed and wrestling bouts arranged. Gopalrao Gun had a friend by name Damu Anna Kasar of Ahmednagar. He also was similarly unhappy in the matter of Ravani, though he had two wives. He too was blessed by Sai Baba with sons, and Mr. Gun prevailed upon his friend to prepare and supply one flag for the procession of the fair. He also succeeded in inducing Mr. Nana Sahib Nimonkar to supply another flag. Both these flags were taken in procession through the village and finally fixed at the two corners of the masjid, which is called by Sai Baba as Dwaraka. This is being done even now. The Sandal Procession. There was another procession which was started in this fair. The idea of sandal procession originated with one Mr. Amir Shakhar Dalal, a Muhammadan Bhakta from Khorla. This procession is held in honor of great Muslim saints. Sandal, that is chandan paste, and scrapings are put in the thali, the flat dishes, with incense burning before them and carried in procession to the accompaniment of band and music through the village, and then after returning to the masjid, the contents of the dishes are thrown on the mimbar and walls of the masjid. This work was managed by Mr. Amir Shakkar for the first 3 years and then afterwards by his wife. So on the same day, the two processions, the flags by the Hindus and the sandal by the Muslims, went on side by side and are still going on without any problem. Arrangement. This day was very dear and sacred to the devotees of Sai Baba. Most of them turned up for the occasion and took part in the management of the fair. Tatya Kote Patel looked to all outward efforts, while the internal management was entirely left to Radha Krishnamai, a female devotee of Baba. Her residence was full of guests on the occasion, and she had to look after their needs and also arrange for all the paraphernalia of the fair. Another work which she willingly did was to clean and whitewash the entire masjid, its walls and floor, which were blackened and were full of soot on account of the perpetual dhuni, that's the sacred fire of Sai Baba. This she did during the night when Sai Baba had gone to sleep. Every alternative night in the chapdi, she had to take out all the things, including the dhuni, and after thorough cleaning and whitewashing, replace them as they were before. Feeding the poor, which was so dear to Sai Baba, was also an important item in this fair. For this purpose, cooking on a grand scale and preparing various sweet dishes was done in Radha Krishnamai's lodging, and various rich and wealthy devotees took a leading part in this. Transformation of Urus into Ramanavami festival. Things were going on in this way, and the fair was gradually increasing in importance till 1912, when a change took place. That year, one devotee, Mr. Krishna Rao Jogeshwar Bhishma, the author of Sai Sagunopasana, came for the fair with Dada Saheb Kapade of Amravati and was staying in the Dikshit Wada. And while Mr. Lakshman Rao alias Kaka Mahajani was going with puja materials to the masjid, a thought arose in his mind and he accosted the latter. Thus, there is some providential arrangement in the fact that the Urus or fair is celebrated in Shirdi on Ramanavami. Ramanavami is very dear to all the Hindus. Then, why not begin the Ramanavami festival, the celebration of the birth of Sri Ram on this day here? Kaka Mahajani liked the idea, and it was arranged to get Baba's permission in this matter. The main difficulty was how to secure a Haridas who would do Kirtan and sing the glories of the Lord on the occasion. But Bhisham solved the difficulty by saying that this Rama Akhyan, the composition on Ram's birth, was ready and he would do the Kirtan himself while Kaka Mahajani should play on the harmonium. It was also arranged to get the Sundhavada, that is a ginger powder mixed with sugar, as prasad prepared by Radha Krishnamai. So they immediately went to the masjid to get Baba's permission. Baba, who knew everything and aware of what was happening there, asked Mahajani as to what was going on in the Vada. Being rather perturbed, Mahajani could not catch the purport of the question and remained silent. Then Baba asked Bhishma what he had to say. He explained the idea of celebrating Ramanavami festival and asked for Baba's permission, and Baba gladly gave it. All rejoiced and made preparations for the Jayanti festival. Next day, the masjid was decorated with huntings, that is, a cradle was supplied by Radha Krishnamai and placed in front of Baba's seat, and the proceedings started. Bhishma stood up for Kirtan and Mahajani began to play on the harmonium. Sai Baba sent a man to call Mahajani. He was hesitating to go, doubtful whether Baba would allow the festival to go on, but when he went to Baba, the latter asked him as to what was going on and why the cradle was placed there. He answered that the Ramnavami festival had commenced and the cradle was put out for that purpose. Then Baba took a garland from the nimbar and placed it around his neck and sent another garland for Bhishma. Then the Kirtan commenced. When it came to a close, loud sounds of victory to Ram went up and the gulal, that's a color powder, was thrown up all around amidst band and music. Everybody was overjoyed when suddenly a roar was heard. The red powder thrown promiscuously went up and somehow fell into Baba's eyes. Baba got wild and began to scold and abuse loudly. People got frightened and took to their heels. The intimate devotees who knew Baba well took these scoldings and outpourings of Baba as blessings in disguise. They thought that when Ram was born, it was proper for Baba to get wild and enraged to kill Ravan and his demons in the form of egoism and wicked thoughts, etc. Besides, they knew that whenever a new thing was undertaken at Shirdi, it was usual with Baba to get wild and angry, and so they kept quiet. Radha Krishnamai was rather afraid and thought that Baba might break her cradle, and she asked Mahajani to pull the cradle back. When he went to loosen and unfasten the cradle, Baba went to him and asked him not to remove it. Then after some time, Baba became calm and that day's program, including Maha Puja and Aarti, was finished. Later on, Mr. Mahajani asked Baba for permission to remove the cradle. Baba refused the same, saying that the festival was not yet over. Next day, another Kirtan and Gopal Kala ceremony, that is the earthen pot containing parched rice mixed with curd, is hung to be broken after the Kirtan and the contents distributed to all, as was done by Lord Krishna amongst his cowherd friends, was performed, and then Baba allowed the cradle to be removed. While the Ramnavami festival was thus going on, the procession on the two flags of day and that of the sandal by night went off with the usual pomp and show. From this time onwards, the Urus of Baba was transformed into the Ramanavami festival. From next year, 1913, the items in the program of Ramanavami began to increase. Radha Krishnamai started a Nama Saptah, that is singing the glory of God's name continuously day and night for 7 days, from 11th day of Chaitra. For this, all devotees took part by turns and she also joined it sometimes early in the morning. As Ramanavami festival is celebrated in many places all over the country, the difficulty of getting a Haridas was felt again. But 5 or 6 days before the festival, Mahajani incidentally met Balbua, who was known as modern Tukharam, and got him to do the Kirtan. The next year, 1914, another Balbua Satharkar of Birhat, Siddhakavate, district Sathara, could not act as a Haridas in his own town as plague was prevailed there, and so he came to Shirdi. With Baba's permission, which was secured through Kaka Sahib Dikshit, he did the Kirtan and was sufficiently recompensed for his labor. The difficulty of getting a new Haridas every year was finally solved from 1914 by Sai Baba, as he entrusted this function to Dasaganu Maharaj permanently, and since that time he has been successfully and creditably conducting that function until now. Since 1912, this festival began to grow gradually year by year. From the 8th to 12th of Chaitra, Shirdi looked like a beehive of men Shops began to increase, celebrated wrestlers took part in wrestling bouts, feeding of the poor was done on a grander scale. Hard work and sincere efforts of Radha Krishna Mai turned Shirdi into a sansthan. Paraphernalia increased, a beautiful horse, a palanquin, chariot, and many silver items, utensils, pots, buckets, pictures, mirrors, etc. were presented. Elephants were also sent for the procession. Though all this paraphernalia increased enormously, Sai Baba ignored all these things and maintained his simplicity and modesty as before. It is to be noted that both the Hindus and the Mohammedans have been working in unison in both the processions during the entire festival, and there has been no confrontation or quarrel between them at all so far. First, about 5,000 to 7,000 people used to gather, but that figure went up to 75,000 in some years still. There was no outbreak of any epidemic disease nor any riots worth the name during past so many years. Repairs to the masjid. Another important idea occurred to Gopal Gung. Just as he started the Urisar fair, he thought that he should repair and renovate the masjid. So in order to carry out the repairs, he collected stones and got them dressed. But this work was not assigned to him. This was reserved for Nana Saheb Chandorkar, and the payment was for Kaka Saheb Dikshit. Initially, Baba was unwilling to allow them to have work done, but with the intervention of Mahasapati, a local devotee of Baba, his permission was secured. Baba took a small ghari for his seat, discarding the usual piece of sackcloth used till then. In 1911, the Shava Mandap, the courtyard, was also put in order with great labor and effort. The open space in front of the masjid was very small and inconvenient. Kaka Saheb Dikshit wanted to extend it and put a roofing on it. At great expense, he got iron posts, pillars, and trusses and started the work. At night, all the devotees worked hard and fixed the posts. But Baba, when he returned from Chavdi next morning, uprooted them all and threw them out. Once it so happened that Baba got very excited, caught a pole with one hand and began to shake and uproot it, and with the other hand caught Tatya Patel's neck. He took by force Tatya's petal, struck by a match, set it on fire, and threw it in a pit. At that time, Baba's eyes flashed like burning embers. None dared to look at him. All got terribly frightened. Baba took out a rupee from his pocket and threw it there as if it were an offering on an auspicious occasion. Tatya was so much frightened, none knew what was going to happen to Tatya, and none dared to interfere. Bhagoji Sinde, the leper devotee of Baba, made a bold advance, but he was pushed aside by Baba. Madhavara was also similarly pelted with brick pieces. So all those who went to intercede were similarly dealt with. But after some time, Baba's anger cooled down. He sent for a shopkeeper, got him from him embroidered peta, and himself tied it on Tatya's head, as if he was being given a special honor. All the people were wonderstruck to see the strange behavior of Baba. They were at a loss to know what enraged Baba so suddenly and what led him to assault Tatya Patel and why his anger cooled down the next moment. Baba was sometimes very calm and quiet and talked sweet things with love, but suddenly, with or without any reason, got enraged. Many such incidents may be related, but I do not know which to choose and which to omit. I therefore refer them as they occur to me. In the next chapter, the question whether Baba was a Hindu or a Mohammedan will be taken up, and his yogic practices and powers and other matters will also be dealt with. Bow to Shri Sai Baba. Peace be to all. Om Sai Ram. Chapter 7. Wonderful Incarnation, Behavior of Sai Baba, His Yogic Practices, His All-Pervasiveness and Mercy, Lepo Devotee Service, Master Kapade's Plague Case going to Pandharpur. Wonderful Incarnation. Sai Baba knew all yogic practices. He was well versed in the 6 processes including dhauti, stomach cleaning by a moistened piece of linen, 3 in breadth and 22.5 in length, Khanda Yoga, that is separating his limbs and joining them again, and Samadhi, etc. If you thought that he was a Hindu, he looked like a Yavan. If you thought him to be a Yavan, he looked like a pious Hindu. No one definitely knew whether he was a Hindu or a Mohammedan. He celebrated the Hindu festival of Ram Navami with all due formalities and at the same time permitted the sandal procession of the Mohammedans. He encouraged wrestling bouts in this festival. When the Gokulashtami came, he got the Gopal Kala ceremony duly performed, and on Eid festivals, he allowed the Mohammedans to say their prayers, namaz in his masjid. Once during a Muharram festival, some Mohammedans proposed to construct a tajia or tabot in the masjid, keep it there for some days, and afterwards take it in procession through village. Sai Baba allowed the keeping of the tabot for 4 days, and on the 5th day got it removed from the masjid without the least compunction. If we say that he was a Mohammedan, his ears were pierced, that is, had holes according to Hindu custom. If you think that he was a Hindu, he advocated the practice of circumcision through, according to Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who observed him closely, he was not himself circumcised. By the article in Sai Leela on Baba Hindu Kiyavan by Bividhe, page, if you call him Hindu, he always lived in the masjid. If Mohammedan, he had always the Dhuni sacred fire there, and the following things which are contrary to Mohammedan religion, that is, grinding on the handmill, blowing of the conch and bells, oblation in the fire, bhajan, giving of food or worship of Baba's feet by means of arghya, water, were allowed there. If you think that he was a Mohammedan, the best of the Brahmins and Agnihotris, leaving aside their orthodox ways, fell prostrate at his feet. Those who went to make inquiries about his caste were dumbfounded and were captured by his darshan. So, none could definitely decide whether Sai Baba was a Hindu or a Mohammedan. This is no wonder, for he who completely surrenders himself to the Lord by getting rid of his egoism and body consciousness thus becomes one with him and has nothing to do with any questions of caste or nationality. Baba saw no difference between any two castes and even between beings. He took meat and fish with fakirs, but did not grumble when dogs touched the dishes with their mouths. Such was unique and wonderful incarnation was Sai Baba. On account of the merits in my past birth, I had the good fortune to sit at his feet and enjoy his blessed company. The joy and delight I derived thereon was incomparable. In fact, Sai Baba was pure Anand and consciousness. I cannot sufficiently describe him, his greatness and uniqueness. He who took delight at his feet was established in his own shell. Many sannyasis, sadhaks, and all sorts of men aspiring for salvation came to Sai Baba. He always walked, talked, and laughed with them, and always uttered, Allah Malik, God is the sole owner. He never liked discussion or disputation. He was always calm and controlled, though irritable at times, always preached Vedanta, and nobody knew till the last who was Baba. Princes and poor people were treated alike by him. He knew the inmost secrets of all, and when he gave expression to them, all were surprised. He was a repository of all knowledge, still he feigned ignorance. He also disliked honor. Such were the characteristics of Sai Baba. Though he had a human body, his deeds testified to his godhood. All people considered him as the god in Shirdi. Behavior of Sai Baba. Ignorant that I am, I cannot describe Baba's miracles. He got almost all the temples in Shirdi repaired. Though Tatya Patel, the temples of Shani, Ganapati, Shankar, Parvati, village deity and Maruti were put in order. His charity was also remarkable. The money he used to collect as Dakshina was freely distributed, rupees 20 to some, rupees 15 or 50 to others every day. The recipients thought that this was pure charity money, and Baba wished that it should be usefully employed. People benefited immensely by having Baba's darshan. Some became hale and hearty, wicked people were turned into good ones. Leprosy was cured in some cases. Many got their desires fulfilled without any medicine being put in the eyes. Some blind men got back their sight, and some lame ones got their limbs. Nobody could see the end of his extraordinary greatness. His fame spread far and wide, and pilgrims from all sides flocked to Shirdi. Baba had his asan near the Dhuni and always rested there. He sat there in meditation, sometimes without a bath. He used to tie a small white turban on his head and wear a clean dhautar around his waist and a shirt on his body. This was his attire in the beginning. He first practiced medicine in the village. He examined patients and gave medicines. He was also successful, and he became famous as Hakim Doctor. A curious case may be narrated here. One devotee had his eyes quite red and swollen. No doctor was available in Shirdi. The other devotees took him to Baba. In such cases, other doctors would use ointments, onions, cow's milk, and camphorated drugs, etc. Baba's remedy was quite unique. He pounded some bhiba, some carpalsanakadium, that is, marking nuts, and made into two balls of them and thrust them on each eye of the patient and wrapped a cloth, bandage around them. Next day the bandage was removed and water was poured over them. The inflammation subsided and the pupils became white and clear. Though the eyes were very delicate, the bhiba caused no hurt but removed the disease of the eyes. Many such cases were cured. This is only one instance in this regard. Baba's yogic practices. Baba knew all the processes and practices of yoga. Two of them will be described here. Dauti Kriya or cleansing process. Every third day, Baba went to the well near banyan tree at a considerable distance from the masjid, washed his mouth and had a bath. On one occasion, he was seen throwing up his intestines, cleaned them inside outside and placed them on the jam tree for drying. There are people in Shirdi who have actually seen this and who have testified to this fact. Ordinary dhauti is done by a Mauritian piece of linen, 3 inches broad, 22.5 feet long. This piece is gulped down the throat and allowed to remain in the stomach for about a half an hour for being reacted there and then taken out. But Baba's dhauti was quite unique and extraordinary. Khanda Yoga. In this practice, Baba extracted the limbs from his body and left them separately at different places in the masjid. Once a gentleman went to the masjid and saw the limbs of Baba lying in separate places. He was terrified. He first thought of running to the village officers and informing them of Baba being hacked to pieces and murdered. He thought that perhaps he would be held responsible as he was the first informant and knew something of the affair, so he kept silent. But next day when he went to the masjid, he was very much surprised to see Baba hale and happy as before. He thought that what he had seen the previous day was only a dream. Baba practiced yoga since his infancy and nobody knew or guessed the proficiency. He has attained in it. He charged no fees for his cures, became renowned and famous by virtue of his merits, gave health to many a poor and suffering person. This famous doctor of doctors cared not for his interests, but always worked for the good and welfare of others, himself suffering unbearable and terrible pain many a time in the process. One such instance I will relate now, which will show the all-pervasive and the most merciful character of Sai Baba. Baba's all-pervasiveness and mercy. In the year 1910, Baba was sitting near the dhuni on Diwali and warming himself. He was putting firewood into the dhuni, which was burning brightly. A little later, instead of pushing logs of wood, Baba pushed his arm into the dhuni. His arm was scorched and burned. This was noticed by the errand boy Madhav and also by Madhavrao Deshpande Shyama. They at once ran to Baba and Madhavrao clasped Baba by his waist from behind and dragged him forcibly backward and asked Deva, "Why you done this?" Then Baba came to his senses and replied, "The wife of a blacksmith at some distant place was working the bellows of a furnace. Her husband called her, forgetting that her child was on her lap. She got up hastily and the child slipped into the furnace. I immediately thrust my hand into the furnace and saved the child. I do not mind my arm being burnt, but I am glad that the life of the child is saved." Leper devotee service. On hearing the news of Baba's hand being burnt from Shama, Madhavrao Deshpande, Mr. Nanasaheb Chandorkar was accompanied by the famous doctor Parmanand of Mumbai with his medical outfit consisting of ointments, lint and bandages etc. Rushed to Shirdi and requested Baba to allow Dr. Parmanand to examine the arm and dress the wound caused by the burn. This was refused. Ever since the burnt arm was dressed by Bhagoji Sinde, a leper devotee, his treatment consisted in massaging the burnt part with ghee and then placing a leaf over it and bandaging it tightly. Mr. Nanasaheb Chandorkar solicited Baba many a time to unfasten the bandages, get the wound examined, dressed and treated by Dr. Parmanand with the object that it may heal fast. Dr. Parmanand himself made similar requests, but Baba postponed it by saying that Allah was his doctor and did not allow his arm to be examined. Dr. Parmanand's medicines were not exposed to the air of Shirdi, and they remained intact, but he had the good fortune of getting a darshan of Baba. Bhagoji was allowed to treat the hand daily. After some days, the arm healed and all were happy. Still, we do not know whether any trace of pain was left or not. Every morning, Bhagoji went through his program and untying the bandages, massaging the arm with ghee, and tightly bandaging it again. This went on till Sai Baba's Samadhi. Sai Baba, a perfect Siddha, as he was, did not really want this treatment, but out of love for his devotee, he allowed the Upasana service of Bhagoji to go on uninterrupted all along. When Baba started for Lendi, Bhagoji held an umbrella over him and accompanied him. Every morning when Baba sat near the post close to the Dhuni, Bhagoji was present and started his service. Bhagoji was a sinner in his past birth. He was suffering from leprosy, his fingers had shrunk, his body was full of pus and smelling badly. Though outwardly he seemed so unfortunate, he was really very lucky and happy, for he was the premier servant of Baba and got the benefit of his company. Master Kapade's plague case. I shall now relate another instance of Baba's wonderful Leela. Mrs. Kapade, the wife of Mr. Dadasai Kapade from Amravati, was staying at Shirdi with her young son for some days. One day the son got high fever, while further developed into bubonic plague. The mother was frightened and felt most uneasy. She thought of leaving the place for Amravati and went to Baba in the evening. When he was coming near the Vardan of Samadhi Mandir in his evening rounds for asking his permission, she informed him in a trembling tone that her dear young son was down with plague. Baba spoke kindly and softly to her, saying that the sky is beset with clouds, but they will melt and pass off and everything will be smooth and clear. So saying, he lifted up his daphne up to the waist and showed to all present 4 fully developed bobos as big as eggs and added, "See how I have to suffer for my devotees. Their difficulties are mine." Seeing this unique and extraordinary deed, the people were convinced as to how the saints suffered pains for their devotees. The hearts of the saints is softer than wax. It is soft in and out as butter. They love their devotees without any idea of gain and regard them as their true relatives. Going to Pandharpur. I shall now close this chapter after relating a story illustrating how Sai Baba loved his devotees and anticipated their wishes and movements. Mr. Nanasaheb Chandorkar, who was a great devotee of Baba, was Mamlatadar at Nandurbar in Khandesh. He got an order of transfer to Pandharpur. His devotion to Sai Baba bore fruit as he got an order to go and stay at Pandharpur, which is regarded as the Bhu Vaikunta, heaven on the earth. Nana Sahib had to take immediate charge, so he left for the place without even writing or informing anybody at Shirdi. He wanted to give a surprise visit at Shirdi, his Pandharpur, see and salute his Vithoba, that is Baba, and then proceed further. Nobody knew of Nana Sahib's departure for Shirdi, but Sai Baba knew all about this, as his eyes were everywhere omniscient. As soon as Nana Sahib approached Nimgam, a few miles from Shirdi, there was a stir in the masjid at Shirdi. Baba was sitting and talking with Mahasapati, Apashinde and Kashiram, when he at once said, "Let us all 4 do some bhajan. The doors of Pandari are open. Let us sing merrily." Then they began to sing in chorus, the bhava of the song being, "I have to go to Pandharpur and I have to stay on there, for it is the house of my Lord." Baba sang and the devotees followed him. After a short while, Nana Sahib came there with his family, prostrated before Baba and requested him to accompany them to Pandharpur and stay with them there. This salutation was not necessary, as the devotees told Nana Sahib that Baba was already in the mood of going to Pandharpur and staying there. Hearing this, Nana Sahib was moved and fell at Baba's feet. Then, after getting Baba's permission, Udi, the sacred ash and blessings, Nana Sahib left for Pandharpur. There is no end to Baba's stories, but let me now stop here, reserving for the next chapter other topics such as importance of human life, Baba's living on alms, Bhajaba's service and other stories. Bow to Shri Sai. Peace be to all.